Donald Trump has the lowest approval, essentially, of any president in the history of the United States during this time in the term. The latest Reuters Ipsos poll has his disapproval at 57%, his approval at only 41%. When you get into areas like foreign policy, only 35% approve. And when you dig deeper into other crosstabs regarding the economy, regarding his handling, or I should say abductions of migrants, it's very, very low. Donald Trump is detested and despised in the United States of America. You know, he still holds that 35% of ultra MAGA people, but I think the rest of Americans see Donald Trump making posts like this in the morning, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Everyone, keep oil prices down. I'm watching. You're playing right into the hands of the enemy. Don't do it, exclamation point. To the Department of Energy, drill, baby, drill, and I mean now. Does he think that the Department of Energy actually does drilling? I mean, America went to war with Israel against Iran. We got very little clarity of what was actually taking place. We got very little clarity about why the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, previously said that Iran was not able to access nuclear materials and was not building any nuclear weapons within the past 90 days. And all of a sudden that changed and things escalated very quickly. And you have Donald Trump talking about regime change, and you have people on Fox talking about regime change amongst all dictators in the world. And at a time when the United States would normally meet with allies, like its NATO allies, it was just Trump and Netanyahu basically going it alone with them. And so over the weekend, the United States hit 3 sites in Iran. Donald Trump held this bizarre press conference. Usually in these press conferences, you do them by yourself as the commander in chief in the White House. Donald Trump did it kind of flanked by JD Vance and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth. And like the 3 of them looked like the 3 Stooges, like they didn't know where to stand. You had Vance making like weird faces while Donald Trump was saying strange things like, I'd like to thank God. Thank you, God. God bless Israel. God bless Middle East. God bless God. God bless the United States. This is a very bizarre speech, but he says that the nuclear sites in Iran were totally obliterated, when that's not even data that you're able to obtain that soon after the strikes of the nuclear sites. We used B-2 and bunker busting bombs from the B-2 to hit these sites. A lot of the intelligence after said that these sites were badly damaged, but that they were not completely destroyed, and that the uranium, which can be enriched, was able to be moved and transferred because Donald Trump kept on choreographing the plan on social media and through his press statements that Iran was able to move some of the material outside of the facilities. We still need to understand what the hell happened, but we know that the Trump regime will lie about everything. And then on Monday, we had Iran's kind of choreographed retaliation where they shot missiles at United States Air Force Base in Qatar and didn't kill anybody, fortunately. Didn't really cause any significant or massive damage as far as we know at this point. You have the foreign minister of Iran meeting with Putin. You have the Chinese foreign minister basically calling for normalcy in the world. You have China acting like they're the moral authority right now. That's kind of where the United States has sunk. And you have America's traditional allies kind of wanting to be at America's side, but not really knowing what it should be doing in a situation like this. And meanwhile, you have things escalating in Ukraine as Russia continues to unlawfully attack or continues to invade Ukraine and kill innocent civilians. Let's bring in Brett and Jordy. We have a lot to discuss. We covered breaking news when the attacks happened live. We've been doing a lot of live coverage of when the U.S. attacked the military bases in Iran, when Israel struck Iran. the retaliation by Iran. We've been following it all.
There's certainly been no shortage of news this weekend. Just a typical weekend in Trump's America. I mean, we got terrorist threats back, the country on a heightened terror alert here at home. We've got new Middle East wars. We have a housing crisis here, a collapsing job market. Feels like Bush's America is back, folks. That's the vibes that I am getting right now here. And Donald Trump just blurting it out yesterday, saying that this is about regime change, endorsing the idea of regime change in Iran. This has just escalated so quickly. And we went from a point where the DNI Tulsi Gabbard months ago was saying that there was zero evidence that Iran had been ramping up any sort of nuclear weapons program whatsoever, to all of a sudden this urgency that we have to bomb them now, we have to bomb them this second. And it just, the whole thing just doesn't pass the sniff test to me. And listen, I think we could all agree here that Iran should not have nuclear weapons that they should be using on other countries. And I think we could all agree that we do not like the oppressive regime in Iran. But I think we also do not want the U.S. to be embroiled in another Middle East war, another one of these regime change wars. I've had these my entire life growing up as a millennial in the United States. It was just war after war after war. And we got into these wars based on people lying to us. And it feels awfully like that right now. And so I don't know why you would ever take Donald Trump at his word now when he's been a proven liar in every other respect. And when the other folks who have seen our intelligence, like the Democrats on the intelligence committees and whatnot, have said, we haven't seen any intelligence that there was any urgent matter here whatsoever for Donald Trump to take the actions that he is taking. And so I think you could balance all those perspectives, have a nuanced point of view here, and realize that Donald Trump, did this in a very unhinged manner. I think he made the world less safe. I think he certainly made the United States less safe. And, and now we're seeing that sort of dance back and forth between Iran and the United States. Something else that doesn't quite pass the sniff test to me is the Iran retaliation of it all. I mean, we're getting reports that they gave Trump the heads up that they were going to attack. They gave Qatar the heads up that they were going to attack. It's clear that they felt the need to have some sort of response that they considered proportional, that they could then go to their people and say, hey, look, we did it. We got back at them. Trump, by the way, kind of did the same thing to them. I mean, he targeted this facility. They had moved all their stuff out already. They moved all their nuclear stuff out of the facility. They moved all their employees out of the facility. And from what we know, we don't even know how much damage was actually done to a facility like Fordo, which was the biggest, highest level target. We've seen the Trump administration. We've seen even people like J.D. Vance, top military officials, really kind of softening their language, other than Trump, who continues to double down, but softening their language about whether or not this facility was actually totally obliterated. So it's kind of seeming like the mission kind of achieved very little ultimately at the end of the day, caused more chaos. And it's just another thing, if you had to kind of say what has been the pattern of the Trump administration, this Trump administration and the last one, but this one in particular since day one, I think one word you could use to describe it is chaos. Chaos in all respects. And I think that's why you're seeing Donald Trump's approval rating, continue to crater. People are feeling the chaos out there everywhere, whether it's with prices, whether it's with USAID, whether it's with Doge. No matter where you look in this administration, it's just chaos, 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 chaos. We're going to continue to get into all the details, everything that's going on here, but I do want to pass it over to Jordy. Jordy, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right, I guess, all things considered. But word of tonight's show is chaos. What we're seeing here is chaotic. What we've seen throughout this entire Trump regime has been chaos. The way he's manipulated the stock market, the way tariffs have totally thrown small businesses for loops, the way he's getting us into again, this is another failed campaign promise. Remember what he campaigned on? He said, if Biden gets elected, there'll be forever wars. What actually happened? It wasn't flawless, but Biden got the troops out of Afghanistan, something presidents for generations have failed to actually do. President Biden did it. And part of the reason why it wasn't a flawless execution was actually because of Donald Trump's dealings from his previous administration. So now where do we sit right now? Well, the U.S. is embroiled in another global conflict. We're getting thrown into these wars. And it's all on Donald Trump and this Trump regime that just throws the United States and the United States of America into chaos day in and day out. And it's costing people's lives. It truly is, Ben.
I'm reminded by this post from November 2013, and I can find you dozens that are just like this, when Donald Trump posted, "Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, not skilled." Well, former President Obama actually negotiated a deal with Iran where Iran reduced the uranium that it had. Iran was constantly being supervised by international bodies. And we were actually in a situation where, by all accounts, it seemed like they were moving away from any conversion of the uranium into a weaponized grade version of the uranium. Donald Trump, during his first administration, pulled the United States out of that deal. That's kind of a common theme with Donald Trump. During this regime, he pulled the United States out of the USMCA, the United States, Mexico, and Canada Agreement, which was basically a plagiarized version of NAFTA with a few updates and upgrades based on the fact that NAFTA was introduced in the mid-1990s and the USMCA was introduced in 2018-ish, 2017, 2018. But that was Trump's deal. Trump broke that deal. Trump broke the deal that he negotiated with Japan. Donald Trump broke trilateral agreements throughout the country, throughout the world. He's broken major trade agreements. He's pulled the United States out of international bodies. He creates the problems. He creates the chaos. And then he tries to pretend that he's fixing it, but he's actually making things worse. And then he wants to, ultimately, to take credit for these things. Look, it's clear to me that Iran's military is no match anywhere close to the United States. To use the word obliterated accurately, if Iran went to war with the United States, Iran's army would get obliterated. The United States would take a lot of casualties, especially if we put troops in the heart of Tehran. But Iran would stand no chance if there was a conventional military battle. So I don't foresee that's something that would ever happen. But play out the different scenarios right now. So right now, let's just assume nothing else happens. You have the Iranian foreign minister meeting with Putin. Why would Iran right now, based on what they saw, come to the negotiating table? Don't you think what they would probably do more likely now is try to accelerate a nuclear program, if anything, and try to utilize the help of a Russia or a China and a North Korea? And you got to remember, because Trump has no clue of the geopolitical maneuverings that are happening here, right? Iran has a defense pact with Russia, right? So as Donald Trump is sucking up to Putin, Iran has the deal with Putin. Iran provides Putin with the drones that are being used to attack and kill the innocent Ukrainians in Kyiv and other cities. So Putin's incentivized to help Iran. China gets its oil, a large portion of its oil, from Iran. So China wouldn't do anything overt, but China behind the scenes could be helping out Iran. They have a vested interest in keeping the Iranian regime friendly to China. And then if you use the language of regime change, which to me should also be framed as, okay, you mean civil war in Iran, what do you think the likely result is going to happen? I don't really think the people of Iran, by and large, love being ruled by a tyrannical Ayatollah. I don't think so. But as between one set of potential rulers and a handpicked ruler by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, you could call me naive, but I just don't think that in Iran they're going to want a Netanyahu pick to be the person who runs Iran. So you play that out, regime change. What does that mean? I think a massive and bloody civil war that destabilizes the region significantly. So my view is, out of all of this, what have we actually accomplished? What have we achieved? Now, for Donald Trump, it was the photo op. That's what he wanted to achieve. I think with all of the other things going on, and Brett and Jordy, you did a good job listing it, disastrous trade wars against the world, prices are going up, unemployment is going up, Housing is less affordable. He's not able to negotiate any peace between Ukraine and Russia like he promised would happen in 24 hours. The Epstein files are being covered up. The No Kings protests, millions of Americans are showing up to protest the Trump regime. Trump's ICE raids are deeply unpopular, as you saw from the outset of the show. His polls are as bad as anyone, at this time has been. It's the lowest his polling has been under that Reuters Ipsos poll as well. As you have all of that going on, inflation is going up. As you have all of that, to me, he wanted to be, in the Situation Room with the MAGA hat, doing the tough guy face, while he bombs Iran. But what did we accomplish? What has this made us safer, or is this yet another problem that has been created, where we learn now 4 to 6 months from now that Iran has a nuclear weapon, or that it has furthered Iran's ambitions to work more closely with Putin and China? What type of message does this send with China? Do you think that this projects strength to China? Because Trump had to call and beg China to call Iran not to close the Strait of Hormuz, because Trump was panicking that oil prices were going so high. So he asked Xi Jinping to call up Iran and say, keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So you think that makes America look strong in the world? And when Donald Trump's making, like this was a post he made this morning about Medvedev. And by the way, if you know anything about Russian politics right now, the former prime minister and president Medvedev does not speak for Russia. Like he's kind of like a troll Medvedev online, so what Medvedev says,
I'm pretty sure he just drunk tweets honestly all day. I wouldn't take it as official Russian policy,
which Donald Trump does. And just look at this. This is a crazy, we have to just look at this and say, this is a crazy thing for any human being to post, yet alone the president of the United States. And, I guess, corporate news, just like, this is Donald. He's being Donald. I mean, here's what it said. This is what Trump wrote in a post at 8:27 a.m. in the morning. Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word? Nuclear! ! And saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that, or is it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately. The N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. By the way, if anyone thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, far and away the strongest and best equipment we have, 20 years advanced over the pack, is our nuclear submarines. They are the most powerful and lethal weapons ever built, and just launched the 30 Tomahawks. All 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and crew! I mean, he's talking about the N-word, and then he says, oh, I mean nuclear by that. That's what I mean. Did you just say that? And can I just show Brett and Jordy? I study also, and Julia Davis from the Daily Beast should get a shout out too from Russian monitors, because she does a great job.
Oh, she does an amazing, incredible.
And a lot of my research derives from her great work. So I want to give her credit where credit is due. But we monitor what they say on Russian state regime TV. And so do you think they view Donald Trump as strong and powerful? Let me show you what's going on day and night on Russian TV. We'll just play the first clip first, and we'll do the second one. But let's play the first one.
Now let's look at the body language. Trump left the G7 fleeing as if he'd been hit with a dusty sack. If I didn't know his personal history, that he hasn't drunk all his life, I'd have the full impression that he was drunk. He was in a groggy state.
Here's another one.
These are translated, by the way, just so everybody knows.
AI translations from their original Russian. Here, play this clip.
CNN states Trump will make a serious speech. Trump comes out and says, I have decided in the lawn of the White House, I am placing 2 flagpoles on the left and right. They are wonderful, beautiful flagpoles with a cable inside for raising the flag.
I already explained this.
He explained. I mean, he was really telling.
It is a great honor for me to announce, and always that's all, that I will install 2 beautiful flagpoles on both sides of the White House on the north and south lawns.
This is the only order of Trump that will be fulfilled.
Yes, it's really like, now wait, is this serious? The people, everyone is waiting. So what, you're probably referring to the fact that you're going to bomb Iran now. What flagpoles? But such astonished journalists ask him.
Frederick, wait, what are you talking about now?
That's how they view him in Russia. Brett.
By the way, can we pull up these photos for a second? Let's show the Situation Room photos that, we were saying that Trump probably did most of this for the photo op and, have this big tough guy moment. And so, that he wanted to kind of emulate that Obama taking out bin Laden moment. Like that was probably his dream. And so they released the photos, probably thinking that would be the reaction that they would get. And I just got to say, and apologies to those just listening on audio right now, but we'll do our best to describe them. But these Situation Room photos are like the worst, right? Like we could all agree that nobody looks great in any of these photos here. They look nervous. They look scared. The photo composition isn't even good from like a photography kind of angle. Trump looks ridiculous. Vance looks ridiculous here. You see, like, as you just go through all the various pictures right here, I just don't quite think that they got that Obama photo that they were really hoping for here. And I just think, Trump wants to have this kind of notion of, that kind of support of a wartime president, have people kind of rally behind him on this stuff. But I really feel like, and this was something that I think a lot of people thought that Trump felt like, people are exhausted by these wars. People are exhausted by the United States getting involved in every little thing. And so Trump's rush to get involved in this and to do these actions that he did over the weekend, to do these bombings, to me, I don't think that it plays well with the American public at large. And I think that's why you're seeing this splintering within MAGA itself. Because even when you look at the polling, do you think the United States should be at war with Iran? It's like no polling I've ever seen in recent
84%.
84% yes, 5% no, and then the rest I think undecided or didn't answer the
84% do not want the U.S. to be in war with Iran.
Yes, do not want the U.S. to be, and only like 4. I got to talk to those 4 or 5% to go yes, we want war with Iran. I think Lindsey Graham is the 4%. I think that's who it is. But the American people don't want this. Most of MAGA doesn't even want this. And so I think it adds to what I was saying earlier. It adds to this image of a White House in chaos, of a nation in chaos, of an administration, of a regime in chaos. It doesn't instill confidence, I think, in this administration, in this regime, what they are doing here. And I think it just adds to a long list of just horrific moves that they've done here.
Absolutely. Brett, can you please bring up those photos one more time? And again, I apologize to the audio listeners, but please check out YouTube and look at these photos. So it looks like, my background was in marketing. Okay, we're good. We're good there. My background was in marketing, and I used to do photo shoots for brands and things like that. What we're looking at when you see those photos, how do I explain it? They're doing their best impression to look serious. Brett, let's cycle through those photos one more time, actually. Let's cycle through them. They're like, make serious faces here, guys. Everyone look like they're working hard because it's an absolute clown show. Trump wearing his MAGA hat. Like, he thought this was his Obama moment. But it's an absolute clown show that they put on day in, and all of them, from Hegseth to Rubio to Vance, they all look like absolute clowns. And this is what the American people, we don't want this. No Americans want this type of chaos. What makes leaders great is having a steady hand on the wheel. Not these weirdo photo ops, not getting us into forever wars for the sake of warmongering. That's not what the American people actually want. And when you see those polls, the proof is in the pudding. Nobody wants war. What are we doing here? And Donald Trump, just for what? To have this weird photo op for his own legacy, is doing this to put, once again, his fingerprints on history, to do this? To put American lives at risk? Say what you want about former President Biden. Yeah, I think he did a pretty damn good job. think he was a steady hand on the wheel. I think he tried to find ways to make sure wars didn't happen. And now look what we have out of Donald Trump, a complete unhinged maniac that we have chaos day in and day out from every day in this country.
I think every president in my lifetime, maybe save for Joe Biden, actually, got into wars. And Joe Biden somehow was just destroyed by people because he just helped our allies out when they were being attacked. And I think that whole framing to me always really bothered me. But I think in these moments, people are looking for leaders to step up with a moral clarity. Not a poll-tested response to how should I act to this moment in time, but how do I feel in this moment? What are my consistent beliefs when it comes to these things? And so I thought there was a really interesting moment that took place over the weekend where these attacks took place and Bernie Sanders was in the middle of one of his rallies, his fighting oligarch rallies. And there was this great moment where he reacted in real time to this incident, to Donald Trump striking Iran. Now, I want to show you this moment. We're going to go to a quick commercial break in a second, but I really want you to see this, so stick around.
Brett,
yeah.
I want to say this, though, because when you talk about leaders with moral clarity, Charlie Angus, former member of Canadian Parliament, and then we're going to be doing a lot more stuff with Charlie. I've been talking to him about kind of expanding his presence here on the MeidasTouch network. So to give a shout out to Charlie and also the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, we're going to be dropping a Carney emoji, and we're going to be dropping a Charlie Angus emoji right here. One of the things we're trying to encourage is more memberships on our YouTube page right here, because it helps grow our platform. We've grown. Last week we hit over 5 million subscribers with 0 outside investors. So you can gift memberships to people. We try to make it fun. And one of the things we do now is we have some extra exclusive content for members on the YouTube site, but also we have these emojis. And if we hit 400 memberships on this episode, we will unlock the Prime Minister Carney and the Charlie Angus emoji for our Canadian series. We already have the elbows up. So I just wanted to say that. And a reminder, everybody, check out MeidasPlus.com and store.MeidasTouch.com as well. Sorry for interrupting you, Brett, but I wanted to get into the emojis. Let's take a quick break and we will be right back. Hey everyone, Nicole Wallace from MSNBC just launched a new podcast. It's called The Best People. Each week, she sits down with some of the funniest, smartest, and best people she knows. People who inspire her personally and professionally. Rachel Maddow, Jason Bateman, Doc Rivers, Sarah Jessica Parker, and us. We recently sat down with Nicole Wallace to talk about everything from Fox News and how we fact check them, Trump 2.0 and how the regime is utterly failing and what we can do to stand up against them, building a pro-democracy community that spans the globe. You can watch the episode and others on YouTube or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes of The Best People with Nicole Wallace drop on Mondays, and you can check out the episode with me and my brothers on the feed. The Best People with Nicole Wallace. Just search wherever you get your podcasts.
Struggling to stay focused? I suffer from staring at screens all day? Then listen up, because the Remarkable Paper Pro might just be the productivity upgrade you've been waiting for. So what's a paper tablet? It's everything you love about paper, the feel, the freedom, the focus, but supercharged with digital features. The all-new Remarkable Paper Pro is their 3rd generation paper tablet. It's thin, sleek, and feels just like writing on real paper, but it also converts handwriting into text, includes a built-in reading light, productivity templates, and more. Here's my Remarkable Pro. It's honestly made note-taking fun for me. I mean, look at that. How cool is that right there? And as someone who's not the most organized, it's great knowing that all my notes are saved and I could always access them easily. And here's the best part. No social media, no inbox, no distractions, just pure focus. Whether I'm in meetings or brainstorming ideas, this device keeps me in the zone, and it's made from premium materials with a gorgeous 11.8-inch display and a 2-week battery life. Try it risk-free for 100 days. If it's not a game changer, you get your money back. Get your paper tablet at remarkable.com today. That's remarkable.com. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. As someone with a public profile and active digital presence, I know just how unsettling it is to realize your address, phone number, or even family members' names are floating around on dozens, sometimes hundreds of data broker sites without your permission. That's why I signed up for Delete Me. Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. You simply let them know what information you want removed, and their privacy experts take care of the rest. They even send personalized reports so you can see what they found and what they've successfully removed. And it's not a one and done deal. Delete Me keeps working, monitoring, and cleaning up your data regularly. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and enter code Meidas, MEIDAS at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Meidas, code Meidas.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. It really helps. Definitely check out the best people, Nicole Wallace and the Brothers episode. That was really cool. It was awesome to appear on her show. Nicole's fabulous. She also has the YouTube version up now as well on the YouTube channel. So check that out. Let's make it one of her most listened to and watched interviews. Brothers, what do we think about that? I think the Mighty can get that done. And Benji, it looked like while we were at our break, we got a lot of memberships. So I think we're maybe like 250 memberships away now from unlocking the Angus Carney emoji. I'm trying to keep track as best as possible. Mods, please help keep me honest. It feels like it's the 250 range. Got a lot during that break. Keep it up. Gift the memberships to folks. It really helps. We're independent network here. No outside investors. And like Ben said, it's a cool way to unlock emojis and you get special, cool, unlockable membership only videos. Benji, where to next?
Brett was talking about that moment during Senator Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy speech where Senator Sanders learned that the United States had struck those sites in Iran, and without hesitation, Bernie Sanders kind of just connects with the crowd. I want to show that moment. Let's play it.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran," etc. I agree. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard this second alarming, that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
So I want to share, and one of the things I want to share, though, is how connected Bernie Sanders, I think, is to the audience, to the crowd, to this moment right now, to the people. And, I just, when I was interviewing Senator Sanders, he said to me that the most important issues are often the issues that are least discussed. In addition to the fact that Americans don't like war, they don't like never-ending war, there are the issues that we try to bring up time and time again here on the MeidasTouch network, and we have to address what's happening, of course, in the Middle East, but we also don't want to forget that there is a disastrous budget bill that's working its way through Congress, that's currently with the Senate, who's making the bill even worse. It's going to take off 15 million Americans from Medicaid and from their health care. That's why we refer to it as a murder bill, because it's going to kill people. It's taking away food stamps from people. It's taking away housing assistance from people. Brett did a great report on how it is selling 250 million acres of federal land to Donald Trump's billionaire buddies, who are also getting massive tax cuts. The billionaires are getting trillions in tax cuts, which they could probably then go along and then buy the $250 million in federal lands, to have, to have it for their future generations, where, just the regular folks are getting screwed. Donald Trump came in, he said he was going to lower prices and end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. He said that housing would be more affordable. That was the message that was out there. And now it is trade wars against the world. Now it is a war that could have been resolved in the Middle East through diplomacy. Let me just ask you, what are the objectives? When it comes to Iran, what were the objectives? Was the objective regime change? Because Trump had said that. Was the objective denuclearization? Was that the objective? Was the objective a ceasefire after Israel attacked certain Iranian sites? What was the objective? Because, as I'm sure you know now, Donald Trump posted on his social media platform that there's a ceasefire, after saying that he didn't want a ceasefire, but now he says that there's a ceasefire. Okay, so read this message with me and let's determine what the hell is happening here. He puts this in caps: "Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions." First off, what the hell does that even mean? "For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended!" Exclamation point. "Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world." What a weird way to phrase that. "During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world, Donald J. Trump." So I'm just trying to understand what happened. Is Iran denuclearized now? Was that the objective? Because notably absent from that statement is that. So did we just have 12 days of war in the Middle East, where Iran is now going to accelerate its nuclear program and not ever enter into any type of nuclear deal? Because 12 days ago, there was supposed to be the 6th round of negotiation on a Sunday between the United States and Iran that Donald Trump said was going to be very, very, very successful. So I'm just trying to understand, were the objectives achieved? What were the objectives? What is going on? How does this impact Ukraine? How does this impact Americans? Because you know what it sure feels like? It sure feels like when Donald Trump declares a trade war against the world, and then as the stocks are tanking and things are looking horrible, he does a taco, and then he says, "Oh, we got to do a deal. We got to do a deal. We got to do something," and then enters into some short-term thing, which results in the markets doing great. He gets his headlines on Fox for a day. "This was so brilliant. Could you imagine what a great strategy this was?" A problem that he created, but it every day chips away and makes America weaker when you're not rooted in what the hell is your objective? What are you so thirsty for a deal that you have to make deal? Got to make a deal. Got to do it. Did I do a deal? Did I do a deal? And how is this helping? How is this helping Americans? How is this helping us? Brett and Jordy.
Yeah, hey, I'm always going to say I'm happy when there's a ceasefire between two countries. I'm always happy when people aren't killing each other. I'll start right there, right? And we'll see what happens here. I mean, there's still bombing happening as we speak. You know, there's bombs over Tehran. There's bombing campaigns happening right now. So we'll see where this all settles. But you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to go into a war, if you're going to become embroiled in a conflict, then what are the objectives of those conflict? We haven't heard anything about any of this, right? We haven't heard what is supposed to happen. We haven't heard what they actually want. And all we know now is that Iran was able to get, I guess, all of its nuclear stuff out of this facility, out of this Fordo facility, and move it to a safe place before Trump attacked it, and that we didn't actually do any real damage here, and people's lives were put at risk in the interim, and now the world is on heightened terror alerts and people are at risk. So I just don't quite understand what we achieved. I agree, it's very much like a taco kind of statement right here, very much like a like a fake deal that Trump now wants to spike the football and take credit for. But we'll see how it develops. I'm not going to rush to there's no reason I think to rush to a judgment on anything here, right? At the end of the day, I value human life, I value peace, and hopefully we see that happen.
Absolutely. And I just want to say this, like you can't trust the guy as far as you could throw him. So just because he puts out this Truth Social post, I mean, how many times have we seen this, right? And then we're right back to where we started from. So yeah,
every time.
Yeah.
Literally
100%. How many times? Every time. Literally every time. Exactly. So I'm not holding my breath on this one, Benji.
And my hope, to your point, is I'll tell you what would be a great scenario. Great scenario is Iran is fully denuclearized. There's no war in the Middle East. We can now also focus on a ceasefire in Gaza, which would be nice after all the senseless death and bloodshed that we're seeing of women and children over there, because that's something that everyone's been distracted from as well. And I think it's been intentionally done in that way. I'd like to see there be generally peace in the Middle East. I'd like to see there be a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. I mean, that was the war. You know what I mean? Like the war that Trump was supposed to fix is not the one that he helped create, although by being weak to Putin, Trump was largely responsible for emboldening Putin in general. But on this one, when it comes to Iran, when it's Donald Trump, you can say trust but verify, because you can't trust. All you have to do is independently verify. And anytime he puts out a statement, especially while bombs are still going off in Tehran, you have to be, very, very skeptical about it. And just to show you the lack of kind of geopolitical understanding that's taking place here is you have General Keith Kellogg, who was Donald Trump's first, he was supposed to be Trump's lead envoy to Russia and Ukraine. And then I think he got stripped of the title of envoy to Russia. And then Trump had that guy, Steve Witkoff, who's the real estate guy in New York, who didn't have any foreign intelligence experience. Witkoff became the kind of main liaison between the United States and Russia. But here, over the past, last week, 3 or 4 days ago, you had Keith Kellogg, former U.S. general, again, one of the main reps of the U.S. in Ukraine, smile and hugging the Belarus dictator and Putin puppet Lukashenko. Here, play this clip.
Какие люди у нас. My friend. What the person here? Very glad to hear again. This is Кто его не видит? Кто его не знает? Самое медийное лицо последнее время. Media face all over the world right now. She heard about the body.
So then they go and they sit down to meet together in a room that it looks like Mar-a-Lago. Like it is as gaudy. It looks like the fake gold bordello that Trump has turned the Oval Office into. And Kellogg goes to Lukashenko. This looks like Mar-a-Lago. Here, watch this.
With all the gold here, this looks a lot like Mar-a-Lago.
It does.
President Trump said.
Это лучше выглядит, чем гольф-клуб Mar-a-Lago.
That's it's like a U.S. is like a satellite of Russia, is what that looks like, right? Like we have our guy there praising the room in Belarus of the gold on the wall and saying it looks like Mar-a-Lago. And meanwhile, you had Trump sending emails like this weekend. This was the emails that Trump was selling to people on his listserv or sending. Before the 4th of July comes, I wanted you to have these. Then you open it up. Trump signature golf balls. I sign collectible golf balls for you, but we'll only have a few of these left in stock. So if you want them, you've got to order before midnight. Order what? Why are you selling golf balls? Freaking president of the United States. Why are you selling golf balls for? What in the world is going on there? When we come back, I want to talk about some issues on the home front. I want to talk about a Supreme Court ruling, which basically saying now in a 6-3 decision, the right-wing Supreme Court is allowing Donald Trump to continue to send migrants to countries where they're not from, like Sudan and Libya and wherever. It's a horrible ruling, but it uses the framework that the Supreme Court's been using, which is as a procedural maneuver, they stay or pause the federal court rulings, which block Trump from doing that because they rush to Trump's aid to say, well, let's just let these cases work their way through trial. The problem is by then you've sent all of these migrants to Libya, Sudan, and El Salvador. So a horrible ruling there by the Supreme Court. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other developments on the home front and a few other things, of course. I want to remind everybody we are probably about to drop those emojis because we're about to hit the memberships that are needed. A Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada emoji and also a Charlie Angus emoji. We are about 100. I have to look. We're at around 100 memberships away. So become a member, gift memberships to others. You could gift unlimited amounts of membership. You could gift memberships to all 5 million subscribers if you want. You don't have to do that, but you can give memberships to everybody. And we've grown without outside investors. So it's just one of the ways we try to grow this network. All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. We will be right back. Look, starting a new business can be intimidating. I get it. MeidasTouch Network was not built overnight. You need the tools to help you engage in the day-to-day tasks, the growth. And so it's why we use Shopify. It made things easy for us. And I think you should use Shopify too. So Shopify is a commerce platform. It is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands like the MeidasTouch Network. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Even if you don't, easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling to the MeidasTouch Network. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert. And with its world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond, you can count on Shopify. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. So turn your big business idea into boom, boom, boom with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Meidas. Go to shopify.com/Meidas. One more time. That's shopify.com/Meidas.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's okay to struggle. Real strength comes from opening up about what you're carrying and doing something about it so you can be at your best for yourself and everyone in your life. Now, I've personally benefited from therapy. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. With over 35,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. It's convenient too. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, switch therapists at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Meidas. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Meidas. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes, let them know we sent you. Meidas Mighty, y'all never let us down. Brett, drop the Carney and Angus emojis. We did it. Y'all the best. I mean, honestly, thank you guys. Every time you guys meet the challenge and you always excel. So greatly appreciate it. Drop those emojis. Benji, where to next?
You know, I think about Donald Trump's post about the ceasefire, and this is a great moment. And it kind of sums up Donald Trump with everything. Because when I immediately read it earlier, as an American who does not want to see war, as an American who does not want to see Iran have nuclear weapons, you want to believe that is true. And so I get filled with these conflicting emotions of feeling, wow, this could be great, but also knowing that this is a felon who is saying it, right? It's a sexual abuser, someone who's found liable for sexual abuse. This is someone who's been found criminally liable, a felon 34 times over for fraud. This is someone who's been found civilly liable for lying about all the different numbers of his properties and saying it's this valuation and that valuation. This is a bankrupt. This is a guy who lies about every single thing. And he doesn't care about the consequences. If he can capture that headline, and if you think about it, when it comes to, the war in Iran, the headline he wanted, and he wants the photos, the photo of him in the Situation Room, the word obliterated, which Gannett and all the local media starts to use, obliterated, exclamation point. And then in the story arc, because Trump's inherently a theater guy, like a TV guy, in his story arc, then all of a sudden you get your immediate piece, that story ends, and then you move on to the sequel or another story, but you close that chapter. That's not the way the real world and life works. And using that microcosm, this framework as a microcosm of all the other things that he does, he recognized that Americans, one of the top issues is Americans can't afford homes. Young Americans can't afford homes. So parents have their kids living with them in the basement or in their homes. That creates friction in the household as well. The parents have to work multiple jobs to be able to hold on to their homes. They may be victims of reverse type mortgage scams that they've got to deal with as well in order to afford groceries. So Trump recognized that I think that you have, people who have these problems and have it. And by and large, most Americans can't afford homes. Inflation's a real big issue to Americans. And so when you promise people these things and you look them in the eyes and you say you're going to do it, and people are suffering and they're having these issues and they're living paycheck to paycheck. And, anybody who's got an injury and you have to work your way through our existing healthcare system, even with the Affordable Care Act, I mean, it's a nightmare to try to get surgeries, that you need and to get affordable medicine. And it's these are all difficult and complicated issues. And Trump just knows how to prey on that. And, his trade war against the world and the promises he made, we all hate the IRS. Who likes the IRS? Who's like, I love the IRS. So Trump tells you, we're going to get rid of the IRS. We're going to do the External Revenue Service because we're going to get so rich off the tariffs that nobody's going to have to pay their taxes. It's going to be great. So it's a potent formula. You mix the fraud on all of these issues, and then you have your enemy, and your enemy are migrants. They're criminals. They're Hannibal Lecter. They're coming out of insane asylums to kill you. And I'm trying to get you all of these things I promised, but this group of people, these migrants, they're out there preventing me in my Marvel fictitious world of getting you all of those things. So we've got to battle the enemy from within while I try to deliver on all of the things that I'm not delivering for you. And while all of that is happening, you have the Mar-a-Lago crew, Trump's billionaire friends, who Trump is giving them benefits, personal benefits, you know, and in the forms of, you know, massive tax cuts to them, not the rest of us, to the billionaires and decamillionaires. And then Trump enriches himself and enriches his family in the process. Like that's what's going on here. And it's a vicious cycle because, again, Brett and Jordy, you've seen this, like even among a very media literate, savvy audience, the first instinct when you read that is to say, oh, that sounds like a good deal. And then you have to look, they're like, but wait a minute, Israel's still bombing Tehran. Like, and it looks still pretty bad there. So what kind of ceasefire is this if it's going down? And then Iran comes out with a statement and said Iran has not received any ceasefire proposal, senior officials say. So then you go back to it. Is he just making up a fake ceasefire? Because you can't possibly fathom that he can make up a false ceasefire. I told someone who will remain anonymous, who works at the company, who said to me when he read Donald Trump's statement, he said, "It sounds like a pretty good deal." And I said to the person who will remain nameless, I said, "How could you be so naive?" I said, "I bet you there's no deal." And the person said to me, "What do you mean there?" I go, "I bet you there's not even a ceasefire." How could that be? Because who the hell makes up ceasefire deals? Who the hell makes up fake conversations that don't take place? But Trump says he speaks to Xi Jinping. That never happened. Trump says he talks to all these people. We have to recognize fundamentally we're actually dealing, and I don't want to make light in any way. So please let me try to be very sensitive in this, because I know when words like he's insane or he's psycho, I understand those words can be triggering when I say that. And sometimes I could be inartful in my delivery because it is around a very serious topic. And I also do not want to allow Donald Trump to use a real issue of mental illness to avoid accountability. So I just want to preface with what I'm about to say. But this is a guy who walks around talking about Alcatraz and that and sharks and he puts these weird props, human beings, as props behind him. Like last week, he had the Juventus football team, the soccer team behind him as he was having conversations about war. Before that, he put these construction workers, and their faces are like, what the hell is he saying? And I think part of the humiliation ritual he puts people through also is part of this. Like he brings Roger Goodell and the mayor of D.C. into the Oval Office, ostensibly to talk about D.C. hosting the NFL draft. So obviously for a DC mayor, that's a good get to have the NFL in your city. So the mayor wants to be proud of that. You know, for Goodell, you know, I guess he wants to stay on the good side of Trump in order to deal with, you know, whatever, you know, the NFL business issues there, whatever. I know, and the owners by and large are very Trumpy. But just this is who we're dealing with here. Here, play this clip just to remind people. I want to make a point about it, but just show this clip from, I think, May 5th. Let's play it.
How did you decide to reopen Alcatraz? Can you walk us through that decision?
Did I say what?
To reopen Alcatraz. How will you use it? How did you come up with the idea?
Well, I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We started with the movie making, and we'll end. I mean, it represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz, Sing Sing and Alcatraz, the movies. But it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. It housed the most violent criminals in the world. and nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but they, as you know the story, they found his clothing rather badly ripped up, and it was a lot of shark bites, a lot of problems.
It's like, what the hell is he even talking about there, right? And I just want to say, like, we could probably do an entire episode going through things that Donald Trump has said over the past few months alone. We could keep it to this term, or we could even keep it to the last few months. Things that Donald Trump has said, things that he has dangled in front of the American people, things that he's dangled in front of his followers, that all of a sudden he just stops talking about at a certain point. When's the last time you heard about this Alcatraz idea, the reopening of Alcatraz? He was very for it. This is his big thing one week, right? This was his shiny keys that he was dangling in front of everybody. What's one of those other things? Remember Fort Knox? Remember Donald Trump every day saying he was going to find the gold in Fort Knox? We're going in there. We're going to find the gold inside of Fort Knox. That was day in and day out. The guy would not shut up about Fort Knox. Suddenly that's one away as well. I mean, he just finds these distractions, and it's like every week he kind of targets, what are these things that I could dangle to people to get them to kind of look the other way, to forget that prices are up, to forget that the economy is in the toilet, to forget that all these wars are still ongoing, that I failed in all these other respects. And so that's what he does. And so, I think it's important that we do reflect, that we do go back and say, hey, you remember that Alcatraz shit? That was kind of crazy, right? And remember how we just totally dropped it? And remember that Fort Knox thing? Because it just shows you what a fraud he is, and also kind of the inner workings of the scam, how the scam is presented. Remember Doge checks? Wow, what happened to those $5,000 Doge checks everyone was going to receive, right? All the Trump people were super excited about that, right? Oh, Doge was a total failure and actually added to the debt and added to the deficit. Oh, okay. And that was just a total bullshit thing. Yeah, it happens over and over and over again. But Trump just goes from one distraction to the next distraction to the next distraction and hopes you forget about the other ones.
Here's what J.D. Vance said a little bit earlier when they moved the goalposts again. Remember what I said before? I said, what are the goals and objectives? Were the goals and objectives denuclearization? Okay, well, make that case. Explain it to me. What's going on? Was the goal regime change? It's pretty severe and serious. Or is the goal now that America is content that the uranium is buried deeper? Buried deeper. Is that's the new line that they're going with? Watch what J.D. Vance said moments ago on Fox. Let's play it.
You said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
sure, 60%.
The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So,
the hell is he talking about? That's what he's... The whole issue is that the uranium can become highly enriched. And the question is, did you knock out that process? Because your director of national intelligence said 90 days ago exactly what Vance just said. Like, you could have had Tulsi Gabbard say that word for that. That's what she said 90 days ago, what he just said. And they said something different to justify the attack. So it basically seems that nothing changed and has gotten worse since Obama, by far. And now they're making up fake ceasefires. And I'll just show you how fraudy they are. And one of the humiliation rituals is, Trump will make up these lies, and then he's got to have people like a Vance or a Rubio roll with it. So when Rubio was asked a similar question about the goals and objectives. Watch how he responds to it. Here, play this clip.
Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked on the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
but that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had
well,
not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
you
I'm
don't
asking you.
You
It's
watch
irrelevant.
that. That's literally the
It's
question.
the whole thing. It's the whole thing. I mean, it's why it's the whole predicate for doing this in the first place. I just don't know how. I mean, I do know how they have no soul. I guess they have no morals. They have no actual values or anything to stand on here. But in these situations, you need a government that's telling you the truth. You need to understand clear objectives. The people deserve it. Everybody in the world deserves to know what is actually wanted. It's the same thing that happens in these tariff deals. You need to know what both parties want in order to come to a deal. And in this case, if you're constantly moving the goalposts as to what you want or what the actual end game is here, then you're not going to ever land on a deal here. And so it's just going to be more chaos, constantly going over and over again. And I know Trump likes to create these problems, and then he likes to say that he solved the problems that he created, but that does not make you a firefighter. That makes you an arsonist. And that's what Donald Trump did in his tariffs. That's what Donald Trump is doing right now in this Iran-Israel situation. It's quite literally what he does everywhere. It's what he does with FEMA. It's what he does when there's a hurricane that hits North Carolina. Trump tries to create an issue, and then he tries to find a way to say, I fixed it, even after he makes the situation much worse. Do you see the patterns? Do you see the fraud? Because I think we're showing you now, beat by beat, exactly how that fraud works.
Do you know another name for a fake deal? What another name for a fake deal is? It's called fraud. Okay? And when a criminal acts like a criminal who is convicted of a business fraud, that shouldn't shock us. That's what the guy does. Oh my God, Jeffrey Dahmer murdered more people. That's what he does. That's kind of his shtick. That's what he does. And so Donald Trump, guess what? He made fake deals before he was the president. And guess what that was called? Fraud. And guess what that led to? Bankruptcy. He did it all the time. He did it all the time. He would just lie about things, and the counterparty would be like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? And he was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. He had a lot of money, a lot of daddy's money to throw around, and that he could waste. And he was such a insane human being that he would just sue everybody and tie people up in litigation, forever, and then try to use his platform to make people's lives miserable. And then he would move on to the next one and leave a trail of suffering behind him. And now, rather than daddy's money, it's Uncle Sam's money. Uncle Sam is daddy. And he goes around and he does fake deals with his new daddy. And unfortunately, that's our money. That's taxpayers' money. And this stuff impacts us all. And it's causing real serious pain and suffering in the United States of America. It's causing real major problems here in the United States of America that needs to be addressed. And that's what we're going to take head on here, right? Each and every day. And, we'll do more takes on this Supreme Court ruling. But, the Supreme Court, through its procedural docket, often called the shadow docket, the 6-3 right wing, they keep on doing the same thing, where they stay or pause the lower court rulings, and the lower court, federal court ruling, blocks Trump's unlawful behavior. You'll have judges, Trump-appointed judges, Bush-appointed judges, Reagan-appointed judges, Biden, Obama-appointed judges, all of them, federal judges, which is the first level of court, then Court of Appeals, then Supreme Court. They'll block what Trump is doing. Then it gets to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court keeps on granting what are called emergency stays for the Trump administration, because the Supreme Court says we have to be so deferential to the executive branch. We need to preserve the status quo. And the right-wing Supreme Court interprets the status quo as what existed before the district court made its order, where I view the status quo as what happened before Donald Trump violated the law. So based on that just technical framing of what is the status quo, was it when Trump did the unlawful thing, or was it how it existed before the unlawful thing? They are allowing Trump's unlawful things to stay in effect during the pendency of a lawsuit where the real irreparable harm, which is the standard for granting a stay, is not being caused to the Trump regime, Mandarin Mussolini, and his, ridiculous Alcatraz behavior. The irreparable harm is being caused to the people who are involved in this case. So this case was brought by an individual who was sex trafficked, a gay man who was sex trafficked in Guatemala. He then fled to Mexico, where he was held for ransom in Mexico. He then fled to the United States because the gangs in Guatemala found him in Mexico. He fled to the United States. There was a finding. You can't send this guy back to Guatemala. There was no finding yet about Mexico because there was no threat under the Biden administration that they would send him to Mexico. So that issue just hadn't been reached. The Trump regime takes him. They fabricate a false declaration. And how do we know it's a false declaration? Because no one in the DOJ agreed to testify once they were deposed about who wrote this declaration and what was in it. But they were claiming in the fake declaration that this individual, this migrant, claimed he was not afraid to go to Mexico, which was a total lie. On that false pretext, they sent him to Mexico, and then Mexico, I think, sent him back to Guatemala, where he was sex trafficked and raped. Okay. So that's what this case is about. And it's about people like him who seek asylum in the US. There are international treaties on this issue as well against torture, because sending people back, right? When MAGA Republicans, they talk about sex trafficking all the time. That's a bad form of torture. So the Supreme Court basically says, we don't know if Trump is going to win or lose this case, but we're going to preserve the status quo, which was Trump changing the standards for how you view these transfers, these deportations. I call them abductions, but deportations to third countries, because this guy was not from Mexico. Remember, we've heard the stories about people being sent to Sudan, to Libya, to El Salvador. And the Supreme Court basically saying, with limited notice, as long as there's a notice that is given, and there has to be some process, but the idea of third country transfers is okay for now. And we'll have to wait a year or two. What do you think is going to happen in that year or two? It is a callous and fascist and despicable court, right? Led by, and the three liberal justices were like, what the hell are you doing? What the hell is this kind of ruling? And we're seeing lots of rulings like that, procedurally allowing Trump to get by on what he's doing. So that's something that we're going to keep on calling out here at the MeidasTouch Network. I want to remind everybody to check out our podcast. It's on the MSNBC YouTube and also on audio with Nicole Wallace. I had such an incredible time doing that interview with my brothers and Nicole. There are a few reporters who we do those with, and she's one of them. And it was great that I got to interview her here. So check out the audio podcast or the video, which you go to the podcast section if you want to find it quicker on the MSNBC YouTube. Thanks to everybody who became a member to unlock the Carney and Angus emojis. I want to, if you can become a member, even though the emojis have already been unlocked, gift other memberships to people if you can. You can gift unlimited memberships to people if you want to do. And, that's one of the ways we grow this network. So we try to find fun and interesting ways to grow it. Store.MeidasTouch.com is where you can get all the MeidasTouch gear. MeidasPlus.com is our Substack. Brett, anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. Thank you everybody for your support. Appreciate your support of this independent platform. Appreciate all the comments we got on the Nicole Wallace interview. It went up this morning. I already see such amazing feedback on that interview. So be sure to check it out on her channel. Be sure to make sure that you add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to go and do that right now. We have a whole lot of people watching. That really helps. Let's continue to grow the show. Let's continue to make it the most listened to and downloaded podcast in the United States, and dare I say, the world. I'm so grateful for you. I mean, what we are doing here as a community, I think is just truly special. We're going to continue to stay on top of this, as you know, with more updates throughout the day, throughout the week. We certainly know this is not the end of the situation, and we obviously do not have the full picture of everything that's going on because we have an administration that lies through their teeth, the way people breathe. And so we're going to continue to follow that. So make sure you're constantly checking back on the MeidasTouch podcast channel, on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for more updates as we go. And I'll just leave it there because we got a lot more to report on, and this has been a great episode. We covered a whole lot. So Jordy, why don't you take it away?
Shout out to the Midas Mighty! Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.